In the last 30 days, I've generated over 180K impressions on LinkedIn, and this resulted for me in over 50 booked calls for my SaaS company. And at the end of the day, in the last month, we've acquired over 120 new users for our platform. And I'm saying this as somebody who used to be burned out from content because I didn't have the right structure. I was, first of all, very ambitious with my goals, but I couldn't follow through because what was missing was a system that can repeatedly create content for me. And now my system looks like this. I sit down on a Sunday afternoon and I lock myself into a room for at least 5 hours and I bulk create content using Claude Code. And at the end of this session, I get 5 LinkedIn posts, including graphics and nice videos out of it. I get 1 lead magnet fully built out, and I also get newsletter content and YouTube script out of this session. So instead of being burned out by trying to create content every day, I've built myself this system with quite a few Claude Code skills and other automations in there, which I'm glad to show you today. And if you stay to the end of this video, I'm going to show you how you can get this Claude Code skill repo and the Notion template that we use internally. So with this said, let's just hop directly into building. One of the biggest mistakes I see a lot of beginners make when they start creating content on LinkedIn is that they just start creating them with ChatGPT or Claude without a proper strategy in place, without any intention behind it. And how we approach this internally is we have this content system here in Notion, but to be more specific, how we structure it is if we go into one of these, and actually let's go into the content system, which I have scripted for today, or better said, Claude Code helped me. And we have, first of all, the channels that we're currently running, mainly LinkedIn, YouTube. We have a newsletter going on and also a blog on our website. But the nice thing you'll realize is that all of this is interconnected. In Claude Code, we have skills to repurpose just one big idea into smaller ones. But what I actually want to talk about are the pillars. Because like this, I'm not overwhelmed at the beginning of the week or at Sunday afternoon knowing what should I even post about, because I essentially just create one post per pillar. I have one building in public. This is me sharing my insights about building Oxygen, the failures, the lessons, the wins, right? Then I have educational and tactical content, just like this one, where I try to be as educational and helpful to our target audience. And then we have personal content where I talk about the journey, about my personal insights. And then we have promotional, because we run a SaaS company. We are shipping a lot of features every day. So we like to promote them at least once a week. And the last one is trends and insights, where we talk about where the future of go-to-market engineering is heading, and also what the agentic world is implicating for us as go-to-market engineers. So that's essentially our content pillars that we run. And if I go into this other view by pillar, you can see I can just think about one post per pillar. And I'm going to talk about how I get inspiration in a second. But yeah, that's essentially the content system that we are running in the background, which helps us structure our content a bit better and give a Claude Code a framework to follow, essentially. So with this said, let's actually get started and let's get building. So for this, let me actually open up a new Claude Code session. And I like to use Warp, which is just another terminal, but it has, it's a terminal on steroids. I'm going to show you why. Because now I'm here in the go-to-market repo where I have all my content systems in there, but you can easily navigate to your given folder in Claude Code using Warp, which I kind of like. And this is one of the powerful features of Warp. It has like this autocomplete feature, which you can see. If I want to start a Claude Code session, it already recommends me this command, which essentially allows it to, work without asking always for approval. Awesome. So the first thing I want to show you is I want to ask it, what kind of skills do you have available for content creation? So with this, I first want to show you the concept of skills, but also what kind of skills we have internally to systemize and streamline our content as much as possible. And as you can see here, just for the copywriting, we have a LinkedIn copywriter, which helps me with my posts, right, on LinkedIn. We have X, we have a newsletter writer, outbound copywriter. We have a rewrite skill because Philip is my co-founder, and we systemize it in that way that I create most of the content and Philip can then just rewrite it in his tone of voice from the content that I've already written. Like that, we get more content out there as a team together, right? Then we have long form and blog publish skills. We have a repurposing skill, because let's say I start with a big YouTube video, then I can repurpose this YouTube video in about like 3 to 4 LinkedIn posts, right? So I can pull out of this one big idea many small sub ideas for short form platforms like LinkedIn as an example. Lovely. Then we have visual and designs, and this is something I really want to show you because I'm really blown away by the ability of Claude Code to generate nice graphics, right? Then we have also video skills, which I also want to show. But just for your information, I'm just showing you an overview of what is possible and what we are building today, but we'll also build them out together, right? Okay, lovely. So then we have lead magnet skills, which also helps me with proposal generation if we get like a higher contract for a SaaS company. Exactly. And then we have like an idea pipeline with the researcher. Okay, so the question is, first of all, how can you create content with Claude Code which doesn't sound like AI slop? Because the mistake that I see a lot of founders make is they think they're productive by just letting Claude Code or whatever agent you're using write content, which is full of M dashes, which is full of just fluffy content, which doesn't resonate with your audience. The question is, how can you create a system that sounds like you, actually creates valuable and high quality content at scale, right? And to be clear here, I still sit down and dump as much context as possible on a Sunday afternoon. I still take the time of 5 hours a week to create high quality content, but that's about it. That's what is necessary for me to get good results, right? So the question is, how can you essentially ground it into your LinkedIn profile? And for this, what I want to show you is, I want to show you that you can use Oxygen Agent. If I go to the website, briefly sign in. So if we go to the connections section, we have a lot of integrations, but the most important and interesting one for our content system is the LinkedIn integration. And as you can see here, let me actually head over to the right org here. So what you can see here is the Oxygen platform. You can actually get started for free. And what you can connect is also your LinkedIn profile. So this is what we're gonna do. And just for your information, it's safely connected. We put on guardrails on it. We open up a new browser session on your behalf and do it from an IP location from your country. So let me actually just log into my LinkedIn profile really quickly. And for this, I first want to select the IP location, which in my case is Switzerland, right? Then I want to log in, and it will ask me for two-factor authentication. So let me just get my authenticator code real quick. Yeah. Lovely. So this should connect my LinkedIn profile now. And what does this mean specifically? This means that within Claude Code, I can now ask, using the Oxygen MCP or CLI, whatever you want to use, I can ask it, yeah, here our LinkedIn is connected, and if you want to install it, you can follow these tutorials here for the MCP and CLI, but it is already authenticated for me. So let me ask it real quick. Can you tell me what my recent LinkedIn posts were using the Oxygen CLI. Lovely. So what it will do now is it will use the Oxygen CLI, as you can see here, and it will search for my LinkedIn posts and it will essentially give them back to me. And the reason why I'm doing this is our main goal initially is to build up a tone of voice base that the agent is actually able to write in your tone of voice, right? So it is taking a bit of time, so I'm gonna briefly pause until it's done fetching all the content. So as you can see, it's done, and what it has done is it has extracted my recent posts using the LinkedIn integration from Oxygen. And what I want to do is I want to let it know that update your tone of voice and context based on the highest performing posts in the last month. So here it is all about grounding Claude Code in your tone of voice and also in the context that you have in order for it to generate better content for you. And in the meantime, while this is loading, I want to briefly show you, for those people who don't know what skills are, they're essentially just markdown files. So if we go into the files, I know this might seem a bit cryptographic, but bear with me. In the Claude folder, you can see there's quite a few skills. And if we go into, let's go for the LinkedIn copywriter. What you can see here is we have the skill MD. And if I expand this a bit here, what you can see, it is a description of how it should work. And it has already a repo of hooks in here. And the way I approached this is I gave it my best performing posts, but I also told it to research best practices, also research good posts from other creators in my industry. And one important reference here is it is saying the skill is grounded in Tim's actual last 20 posts, C Corpus MD. So if you go into here, it has like some of my posts in here. Like this, it is understanding how is my writing style, right? And then I also have reference creators. So now this is getting a bit bloated here, but it is looking at a couple of creators, which I personally think they write great content. And that's how the agent is grounded in best practices from good creators, my personal best performing posts and my tone of voice, and also best practices from the internet. And in that sense, it's generating pretty decent content. And we can actually test this out. Exactly. Awesome. So let's actually head back over to this section. And now it's again, it's getting my highest performing posts and grounding it for it later on. And the first thing that I want to do is let's actually start a new Claude Code session, because we want to actually create a post from scratch. And the way I do it, just for information, I'm using Whisperflow, which is essentially just a software where you can ramble and speak in natural language and it will transcribe it. And that allows me to talk much longer about certain things. So usually what I do, I dump my ideas in here. So in this case, I'd actually like to talk about this thing here, the GTM Engineer Starter Pack. So let's try to write a decent post about it. And the way I approach this, I just paste this here and I tell it, in Notion, find this post and I want to write about following thing. In the past month, I've talked to several top GTM engineering agencies and top GTM engineers or GTM roles from Series A startups and YC-backed companies. And I've seen a couple of commonalities between them. And these would be following thing. They're kind of moving away from Clay to Claude Code. They are all rigorous with split testing copy. And make some market research on what GTM engineers are currently doing a lot. Exactly. So as you can see here, this was a massive ramble, very random kind of. And let's see what Claude Code will write as a copy. Should be a LinkedIn post. Oops. Okay, in the meantime, it is now updating the LinkedIn copywriter skill based on these things that I'm working on essentially. Exactly, so let's just let it work for a couple of minutes. And in the meantime, what I want you to also show you is that Claude Code doesn't just create text content, but it can also create designs, which means graphics, but also videos. And this is something I want to show you briefly. And the reason and how this actually works is, let's take this for example. So for this post in my Notion, check it out. I want to actually create a graphic of it, of our content system. You can actually check out our GitHub repo, and based on that, I want you to create a graphic. There's also a couple of reference graphics which you can check out of our content system. And we got good results with it. We got like over 100K impressions, 180K impressions, 50 booked calls, and 120 new signups. You can reference this in the graphic and use our branding and design. So in the meantime, while this is working, I want to explain how I created this graphic design skill. So if we head back over to the skills again, somewhere here, there needs to be a graphic designer. Here we go. And what this graphic designer is doing, it is referencing the brand MD, which is MD means markdown file, and essentially just a graphic, a text file. And it is creating these graphics based on this template. And what stands out is that these graphics are actually HTML. What this means is it's essentially just code, because these agents are very good at writing code and designing code essentially. And in that sense, it can create graphics, and later it exports it as PNG or whatever. And exactly, this is a description of that thing. And very important, if we go under brand, we gotta also check this out. It needs to be somewhere here. We have the brand MD, which is a description of the Oxygen brand. And it references essentially the landing page code, which we have here. If I show you this in a second, Oxygen agent. So this is our branding. It's like quite clean, futuristic with glass morphism. And it's essentially referencing this type of design. And based on that, it will create me the graphics. So if we head over back to Claude Code, what you can see, it's now working on this graphic. And the question is, how do you create a skill? It's very simple. You just ask Claude Code to create you a skill, and that's more or less it, right? So in the meantime, while this is working on my graphics, you can see the approach of working I take. I spawn multiple Claude Code sessions to work on multiple different tasks, and in that sense, I can create a lot of content pretty fast, right? But let's see if we have some of the things already done. As you can see here, it has saved the LinkedIn posts and adjusted it essentially. And on the other note, what we can see here, it has drafted the LinkedIn post in my tone of voice of GTM Engineer Starter Pack. So we can actually review it real quick. And let's look at the copy if you like it. I spent the last month talking to the top GTM engineers and GTM engineers at YC and Series A startups. Two things that came up in basically every conversation. Call it the GTM Engineer Starter Pack. They're moving off Clay into Claude Code, not because Clay is bad, because it stopped fitting how they work. New pricing got too expensive at their volume. That's an insight. The MCP is too limited. It doesn't scale past. Yeah, so these are all industry insights which kind of got referenced already. And now Claude Code is already doing some other work for me. But this would still require 1 to 2 iterations of better prompting, because in my opinion, it's still not too juicy to post on LinkedIn. But you can see where this is going. Out of the box with this sloppy prompt, what you got here, it generated a very decent copy. That's the point of it. It's putting more leverage on your time as a founder or executive. Next, we can actually check out the content system, which has created me this graphic here. To be honest, looks very good in my opinion, right? It has referenced the 100K impressions, 50 calls booked. It referenced all the skills that we have in our repo. It reads from the tone of voice. So in my opinion, this looks like a very good graphic to me. I'm quite happy about that. And then the last thing that I want to show you is now we have the graphic, but based on this, I want to create a motion graphic video. And for this, create me a step-by-step workflow, or it can also be like a GIF where it shows the workflow that we're running, where we have one big idea. Then we're generating out of this with the specific skills, long-form content, and we're repurposing this with short-form skills like LinkedIn Writer, X-Writer, stuff like that. Exactly, that's how we build our content engine, which repurposes content at scale. I want to have a motion graphic video for that. Lovely. Awesome, so now this will work for a couple of minutes, so we'll just make a short pause until it's done. Awesome, so it completed, and if we briefly check it out, what we can see here is following video, and these are actually not that bad performing on LinkedIn, because it somehow breaks the technical idea pretty visually down, and these perform usually quite well. So that's again one of these benefits of Claude Code, because it's so flexible. And how this has been generated was with this company, Remotion, which is essentially an open source software where you can make videos programmatically. What this means is that it can essentially write React, which is essentially for front-end design, right? And these coding agents are very good at that. And that's the reason why it comes out pretty good. Exactly. So with this said, what is the next step? Once you have generated all of these posts, the next step is, of course, that's a very short and straightforward and obvious one, is you just schedule these posts, which you can do natively on LinkedIn. So you can write a post and then you can schedule it on a given time. And I do this at bulk every week. So now it's Friday, it's the last day of the week. So I usually post 5 times a week, or even 6 sometimes if I have spare ideas and posts which I want to push out. But after that, posting is the initial phase. It's about getting impressions, getting awareness, but this is essentially where the sales process starts. And for this to work, or better said, for this to convert, you gotta do inbound-led outbound. And this is something I'll cover in another tutorial, but just for you to have an overview of, or to get an idea what you can do, because honestly, you can do it at the beginning, you can do this manually. I did this manually myself, and it works like a charm. That's how we booked most of our meetings, because here, this post didn't perform that well. But here, as an example, we got 47 likes and 20 comments. We have also bigger outliers. Like, let me check. Here where we have like 104 comments, likes, or here where we have 101, exactly. So we got a quite few outliers, but you can imagine it like that. Almost 25% of these post engagers are more or less qualified for our offering Oxygen agent, right? So what I do is I identify the people who are qualified, and we can use and do this with AI using Oxygen, but manually I would go into this profile, check if they're qualified leads, and then I would reach out to them, right? So the way you can set this up is if I go into Oxygen, you can see that we have a database here. So you can just tell Claude Code to actually store all of your post engagers, and somewhere here I have this LinkedIn engagement project where I log all the post engagers, as you can see here. Here are like over 300 post engagers in here deduped. And exactly, these essentially get qualified from an agent so that I can do inbound led outbound. And yeah, this is the last concept. But to sum it up, how you approach this is initially what you want to do in Claude Code is you want to connect your LinkedIn using Oxygen. Then you can fetch your recent posts, analyze LinkedIn. What you can also do is you can tell Claude Code to search for posts in your niche on LinkedIn, and it will do so and understand what is currently trending. Then you save this into a skill. You try to skillify everything in your content process. And if you actually want to have access to this repo, I'm going to link it in the description. It's somewhere on my GitHub. Exactly. I'm going to link it where you can find it here in the Content Vault repo, where I'll also link the Notion template. So if you found any value in the video, I would really appreciate if you subscribe to the channel. I'm going to publish much more of these Claude Code tutorials on how to generate more leads, booked calls, qualified signups. And with this said, see you in the next one.